Consuming funds overview. We are moving on to look at consuming funds, or how we consume funds and how budgetary control determines which budget to consume those funds from. I think we have briefly seen this slide before with our transactions being entered. If we have budgetary control enabled, there are a number of settings within our control budgets and also within that manage budgetary control page. Then it will impact how budgetary control validates those transactions. So we have things like our control budget filter. Is it set to ledger, project, or ledger and the project? So what are we actually checking? We have got our budget accounts, our budget structure within our control budget to say what levels we are checking our funds at, etc., etc. And is it for a specific project or not? Are there any sub-elemental rules that are going to override what we have set on our control budget? And also our default date, various settings that will impact how our transaction is validated. So we can ensure funds are available before submitting a transaction. We can manually check funds and we consume a budget when transactions are submitted, approved, validated. We can see the fund status and how the transaction can consume the funds, and we will be having a look at that. And then if anything fails, remember we have got the override. So if you have enabled overrides within your control budget, then you can request an override with justification. And these are the types of balances that we will see. So we have our commitments, obligations, expenditures, and the other. And the other tends to be for encumbrance journal entries, because encumbrance journal entries with commitment and obligation go to the appropriate balance. Any other encumbrance type goes to this other balance. So when we create a requisition, it is a commitment. When that becomes a purchase order, it is an obligation. And when we match our invoice to our purchase order, it is an expenditure. So it flows through those various balance types. The fund available amount in budgetary control is calculated as the budget amount minus budget consumption amount, or the funds reserved amount for a given control budget period, and budget account combination. And there are attributes to determine the funds available amount when you are going your budgetary control on a transaction or a journal. So you have your budget date, which determines the budget period. The distribution account determines the budget account. So for example, you have got a chart of account for a requisition and a purchase order, a charge account for a requisition and a purchase order. So that's your chart of account that's going to determine the budget account, and then the ledger and the budget period then will determine the control budget. Let's take an example in this picture. When we have a transaction like a PO, a purchase order, you will have a fund status associated with it, and if you click on that funds status, then you will be able to see a transaction view and the budget view of that status, and you will see whether there are any failures or any warnings. Thank you for watching.